Well, welcome everyone from wherever it is that you're joining us from. We have quite a big group of registrations, and we're super excited to be sharing this information with you today. The presenters that we have on board today will introduce themselves, but they are very, very generous with their information and their resources. I got a preview of this presentation yesterday. My name is Susie Gill, and for the last sort of 15 years, I've been working as a director of admissions. Prior to that, I was a teacher. So I've currently recently joined the Enquiry Tracker team, working between Australia and the US. So I'm in Michigan at the moment, where my family are, and couldn't be more excited to share the information in this presentation today. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and pop them into the chat, and we will get to them either during the presentation, if it's appropriate, or certainly at the end. The webinar is being recorded, so we'll certainly make sure that we get it sent out to you today or in the next day or so you get all the links and the resources that they're going to share. So I'd like to warmly welcome you to 3 essential pillars for your school admissions journey. And I will hand over to Aubrey first.
Thanks, Susie. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting to see. I've been watching the participants enter in. I see some familiar names there. So hello, everyone, for those of you I know. And for those of you I don't know, Aubrey Bursch with Easy School Marketing. And I'm a mom and marketer in the Washington, D.C. area, which I see some Washington, D.C. folks there. So here's my crew. I have 2 kids, ages 7 and 10, who attend small independent schools. I come from a family of educators too. Here's a photo of me growing up wearing the McLean High School sweatshirt where my dad worked for 30 years. And that really put a love of schools in my heart. And that's why I've been working in and with private and independent schools for the past 2 decades. Time sure flies. I've been working in admissions and events as a heads assistant, as director of marketing and director of development. So I really get schools, and I understand what it's like to wear those many hats that you're wearing, right? And juggling all those things. So at Easy School Marketing, where I'm CEO, we focus on foundational marketing. We audit and assess what you already have in place and identify strategies that will work to optimize your efforts using the limited resources that you may have, with the goal to increase enrollment, retention, and revenue, and allow you to get more done. So today I'm going to talk about knowing your path, like knowing your audience as the very first step in your admissions journey. But before I get started, I want to hand it over to Tara Claeys.
Thanks, Aubrey. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Aubrey and I have the Mindful School Marketing podcast together, and we love to work together, and we're here with Antony today, and I'm so excited to share some great information with all of you. So I am the owner of Design TLC. We are a WordPress website agency, and we specialize in websites for small schools, enrichment programs, and education-focused nonprofits, something that's near and dear to my heart. I have 2 children who are now grown. They're both out of college, but I still am involved in my local community. I volunteer as a mentor with high school students, and was a really active parent volunteer when my kids were in both public and private school. So it's something that I've followed through and really enjoy being connected with my clients. And we serve clients all over the country, all over the world, with really customized solutions for them. And I'm happy to be here today to share some technical expertise, not just related to WordPress websites, but to websites in general as part of your marketing funnel. Now I'm going to introduce Antony.
Hey, thanks a ton, Tara. My name's Antony Campitelli. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Enquiry Tracker with my brother, Greg, who you can see in this picture here. We founded this company about 4 years ago, but prior to that, I've been working in Silicon Valley for a little over 30 years in high tech, working at places like Apple, Adobe, startups, companies like Planet Labs, running marketing and product management teams, but ultimately really building amazing products that are used by millions of people, which is one of my great passions. And I've like, Tara and Aubrey, I've got 2 grown daughters who've gone through the whole education system, but a lot of my family members, my mother, my 2 brothers, were both in the education sector for most of their careers. So I'm pretty passionate about it, and also helping schools really make sure that they can understand what on earth is going on with their funnel. So when you think about these 3 pillars, I think we're going to be able to tell you a pretty compelling story today. And there's going to be some great takeaways that you're going to put into action immediately. So on that note, I think I'm going to hand that back to Susie to sort of kick it off. Thanks, Susie.
You're muted.
I clicked it. It didn't click. Sorry. I'm surprised Antony didn't make mention of his predicament at the moment. We'll give Antony a bit of a buffer today. He had to roll out of his building. The fire alarms were going off about 4 minutes before we jumped on today. So we'll forgive Antony if there's any issues with his connections. He's doing a great job so far. So we want you to consider this enrollment journey, and what you're going to get today is a path, a beginning, middle, and an end in terms of the enrollment journey that your parents will go through as they navigate their way through choosing a school for their children. So the three outcomes that you can expect are on the screen now. I'll let you go ahead and read that, and each of our great presenters will certainly talk to this journey and give you some ideas that you can implement quickly at your school to make it a better journey for your future families.
All right. I'm up. So exciting. I'm so excited to be here. So what's up with the independent school parents? So let's start with pillar one, right? That's knowing your path, right? So knowing your audience. So as we start this journey, it's important to understand our parents, our customers. Things have changed over the past 2 years. I mean, we all know that, right? But certainly also over the past decade. And so it's really important to understand our parent population in order to understand how to market and guide them on this admissions journey. So let's dive in right now. So chatting about parents, I am a parent. I happen to be one. So I love sharing stories. So I'm going to share one with you today. So my 7-year-old daughter has been asking to do gymnastics for like a long time. We finally gave in. But this led to the question of like, which gymnastics studio should I choose? We're here in the Washington, D.C. area. And those of you in the Washington, D.C. area can relate. There are about 50 billion choices of like gymnastic studios. So did I randomly select one? No. I Googled each location, zeroed in on the distance and times of classes, read Google reviews, contacted other parents at our school to see where their kids went. And then I finally selected a studio. Now, did I sign her up immediately? Absolutely not. I signed her up for a trial class. And when that went well, I then signed her up for lessons, right? And all that was for a $25 an hour gymnastics class. So as you can imagine, that process is like 10 times more intense for a $20,000 to $50,000 a year education. So I'm going to share some information about our current independent school audience. And I'd like to hear in the chat, like, let me know if any of this sounds familiar. Are you seeing these things at your school right now? Okay. So as you saw with my gymnastics story, we're seeing a changing consumer, right? Parents are very selective, right? And they conduct a lot of online research prior to even taking the first step in anything, certainly the first step before talking to you or visiting a school, right? We're also seeing that education, no matter the cost, is a huge investment for parents, and they believe that they are now paying for a product and expect that product to perform as advertised. This is coupled with the fact that brand loyalty is disappearing. If parents aren't happy, they leave, right? And students are having more and more say in their education and where they want to go to school. Yes, for middle and high school, but guess what? It's happening even earlier now, right? So with so many independent and private schools, competition is high. And there are also so many alternatives to traditional education that COVID-19 really opened up. The school research process is also becoming longer. Some parents are waiting years until they make a decision. And schools are now needing to engage prospective families and the external community for longer periods of time. This is why if you're running longer funnel events, you have to warm up your audience longer, right? So you want to warm up your prospective families longer, and that's becoming more and more important. People are also thinking about the next step in their child's education in their journey years in advance. So at my child's K-8 independent school, there are many families who move to a certain town that has a highly ranked local public high school when their children are still in elementary school. So remember, parents are thinking years in advance, right? Schools, especially small ones, may see less enrollment in the future. However, with a very marketable niche and something that helps them stand out, without that, they are going to have a really hard time competing with larger, better funded schools. So this brings us to the fact that schools who are very clear on their unique selling point in the market will do much better in the future. Now, interesting another interesting thing to consider is that birth rate data is affecting some areas. I think last month I got off a call with a school in Chicago and they were analyzing the birth rate data and they noticed it was down, right? So they're saying like, what does this mean in terms of admissions and planning and everything like that? In addition, immigration and other factors are also likely to impact future enrollment and admissions efforts. So essentially, we're potentially dealing with a very selective consumers, less students to select from, and more competition. And that's why it's incredibly important for you to understand your particular audience, to understand what you offer and why it appeals to them, and then connecting them to that information. So let's get started. All right. So why families enroll? All right. So talking about and understanding your audiences is really important. So many times schools feel extremely overwhelmed trying to figure out their potential audience and how to attract families to their school. Yet the answers are actually sitting right in your own community, right? New and established families are a built-in audience that you can learn from and then use that data to better market your school. So in our role as market researchers at Easy School Marketing, we've interviewed hundreds of parents, and that's just in the past year. One of the first questions we always ask is why they chose to enroll in the school. This question opens up the door to parents like to think back, like, why did we enroll? What was that like key element that attracted them to the school? And then that made them like sign that contract, right? There's usually that key deciding factor or factors, right? So once you've collected this data and pooled the reoccurring themes, imagine the possibilities for how that can impact the admissions journey at your school. You can talk to prospective parents and know exactly what to say because you have the data that says 90% of your current parents came to you and signed their contract based on X quality, right? This is gold. And it leads to better conversions in your admissions funnel. So I'm curious, type in the chat, like, are you asking this question either in a survey or through interviews? I really want to know, and I'm going to be eyeing this chat as we move through because I want to know how many of you are actually taking that information and using it in your admissions process. Okay, so we ask in a survey. Thanks, Cecilia. Good to see you here, by the way. Yeah, so a survey is a good question, good way to collect that data for sure. We need to do more surveys. Yes, Beth. I think that's a lot of schools think that too. No worries, you're not alone. All right, so let's talk about why families stay. Do your parents, okay, my parents were visiting the other day, so I have a lot of parent stories. My apologies. Oh, good to see you, Pamela. Oh no, that's so nice. I just talked to you the other day too. Double Pamela, yay. You know, when my parents were visiting, they were telling my children about grocery stores when my parents were growing up. And it's so funny. My children were absolutely amazed by this story. There was like one type of canned corn in the grocery store, right? You didn't have rows of selection. If you wanted canned corn, you grabbed X brand because that was the only one, right? My children were like, what? Now we live in a world full of choices. And as I mentioned earlier, parents have a ton of non-traditional and traditional options, educational options to choose from, right? So to understand your audience, you need to understand that it is like, what is that magic that's keeping our families in our school? What is it that's keeping them from jumping ship to the 15,000 other educational options in the area? You've collected the data on why families enroll, right? Now it's time to ask that next important question, why people stay, right? We find that when we ask this question in interviews, we kind of uncover the deeper reasons behind a family's desire to stay at a school. We analyze this data and see what the common themes are. And we also see how it relates to the data about why families enrolled, right? So you have these two data points that are really interesting. If a school has done a really great job aligning their product, you know, their educational piece, with what is being advertised during the admissions process, then we usually see overlapping themes between why families enroll and why they stay. Now, this is the special sauce that both admissions and marketing directors can really like sink your teeth into. Now you know why parents are drawn to you and why they stay. So as you're talking about your school, you can use these data points and mention them in, you know, to prospective families. It can be part of your admissions and marketing strategies. Now, I'm curious, how confident are you that you know why your families stay? Type in the chat. Green is for very confident. Yellow, maybe you have an idea. And red is like, I don't know. So I want to see some colors in the chat. Tell me, red, green, yellow. What do you have there? Ooh, yellow, Lori, got it. Very confident, Sue. Oh, green, yellow. Angie says yellow. Maggie, yellow. We got Cecilia, yellow. Okay, we got a few yellow. Well, we got a lot of yellows here. It's okay. Yellow is you think, you just need more data. So this is good. I love this. I love it. Oh, we got a rainbow. You're hilarious. Rainbow. I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's see why families choose not to enroll. So thank you to Antony for reminding me what an important point this is. But when my son was 3, I undertook a serious search for an independent school for him to join. Like, I don't know if you are parents out there, you know, you get super serious, like you want the right fit, everything like that. I visited websites, examined review sites, and talked to parents in the area and took countless tours. After every tour, I would know like, this is a potential contender or this is a no. And as I narrowed down my search, I would start to get even more specific. This is a possibility, but these 3 concerns would keep me from applying, right? So it was a long process, but in the end, after all the tours and interviews, we chose my son's current school, which is a great fit. But think of all the schools we didn't choose. Believe me, the list was long. Would it have been helpful for them to know the why behind my decision not to take the next step, not to enroll? Absolutely. Here's the truth. Why families don't enroll is just as important as why they do enroll. And not every school is for every family. So sending a survey to those families who chose not to enroll or chose not to apply is a helpful step to take on your admissions journey. When we know why families choose not to enroll, it helps us hone in on what our key pillars are and what they are not, right? It helps us better understand our value, and it creates more impact. It can help us to create more impactful messaging and figure out better ways to attract families who are looking for what we have to offer. Now I'm going to really bring this all together for you. Okay, let's see what I have. Ah, great. Okay, no worries, Phyllis. Okay, so now let's put this into action. Okay, I had a lot of coffee this morning. I don't know if you can tell. So there's a school we interviewed that had 60 parents, that we interviewed 60 parents, and it was a small independent school, so 60 was actually a decent number. We asked them why they enrolled, why they stayed, and then we asked, those who did not enroll, why they chose not to enroll. And although there were many themes throughout all these discussions, we're going to dive into one particular one. So you're going to see how the school alignment of this theme has helped them to attract and retain families, right? So if you were to visit the school's campus, you would see acres of trees, horses roaming, and fields, and miles of hiking trails, and a student-run organic farm, orchards, pollinator fields, campfire pits, and more, right? A lot of stuff, right? And when we interviewed these parents and asked them why they enrolled, they said they drove on campus and saw the children outside playing and learning, and that's what they wanted for their child. They listed the nature and the outdoor theme as a key element of why they enrolled. When we asked parents why they stayed, they said it was this unique educational experience their children received, like where they were taking classes outside, hiking in the woods, learning from nature, and taking advantage of that amazing outdoor campus that the school offered. So when we surveyed those who toured and interviewed but did not choose to enroll, a lack of outdoor time was not cited as a reason why those families chose not to enroll. In fact, many stated that they were kind of sad that the school wasn't quite the right fit because it was one of the only schools in the area that offered such a robust outdoor experience. So this information reaffirmed that outdoors and nature were a huge key theme for this school, and one that should definitely be highlighted on that admissions journey. So what does this tell us? Well, let's think about the admissions process. If you were a prospective family talking to the admissions director of the school, the admissions director would tell you that children are outside every day, rain or shine, breathing clean air and moving their bodies, and that teachers are utilizing the natural surroundings in lessons, and that there are even outdoor classrooms. Kids come home muddy and happy every day. Parents would then receive a tour of the school and campus and see everything in action, right? Then they receive a follow-up email sequence featuring this key theme. And there's more. Let's see. When prospective families visited the website, they would see nature photos and videos. The website language, including nature, outdoors, and the school, that the school has a free nature class, Farm and Forest Explorers, that actually is for their targeted audience group of ages 2 through 5. That's held on campus, thus filling their funnel with mission-aligned families. And that is the power of knowing your audience and understanding why they come to you and also why they stay, right? Super important. So, and because everyone likes to take action, here's a summary of steps to take on your journey. Super important. You may also want to incorporate the NPS or Net Promoter Score into some of your surveys that you send parents, as it allows you to benchmark word of mouth likelihood and also can help with your admissions marketing and retention efforts. So although we briefly mentioned websites here, let's turn it over to our real website expert, Tara Claeys. She's going to really take a look at another key entry point in the admissions journey, your website.
Thanks, Aubrey. I am going to, talk about this journey as we're talking about it as a path. And if you think about building the path, getting it ready, prepping it, like Aubrey talked about, and understanding what your key message should be and what your current families love about your school, and what you should be focusing on. It's really important to set that path and get moving on it, but you want to make sure that it's clear. You want your families to be able to come to your school, come to your school website, which is a main entry point, and have a good experience there, because it really is a key part of this journey. So let's talk about your website. And first of all, taking the information that Aubrey talked about, having a website that communicates your message is super important. This is some data that Antony and his team at Enquiry Tracker have pulled together, data from inquiries that they've had into their system, showing that 89% of all the inquiries coming to the school are coming from online, from the website. So whether it's signing up for an event or asking a question or doing an application, the majority of the contact that people are going to have with you is through your website. So you want this to be a good experience. For prospective families, you want to make sure that you're communicating your key selling points, those things that Aubrey talked about learning through surveys and talking to the families that are in your school and leaving your school. You want to make sure that your website is easy to use. So I'm going to talk about some technical things, and I want to start out by talking about heat maps. In the chat, if anybody's used a heat map, let me know if you know what a heat map is. It is a piece of a script that you can put into your website, no matter what your website is built with, that will over time track where people are clicking. It's a pretty neat thing that you can add, and it will show you on this example, you can see the hot spots where people are clicking. So you know if you have the information that people are looking for is near the top, and if people are actually able to use it. You can see what your most popular things are in terms of clicking. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than the information you get from Google Analytics, but it is a really great thing that you can add to your website. Hotjar is a free tool that you can use to put this heat map script on your site and then track it over time. Now, Google Analytics, of course, is a really amazing free resource. So in the chat also, if you want to put on here, if you use Google Analytics, if you know how to use it, if you look at it, and even if you have it and you want to open it in another window while I'm talking so you can kind of look at your information in real time, feel free to use that too. Lori, I'm glad to see that you use it. So if you want to open it up, feel free to do that. I'm going to go through this a little bit quickly and you'll get the recording afterward. But what I like to focus on in Google Analytics is behavior and overview tab. This gives you a very top level view of the visitors that are coming to your site. You can change the amount of time that this is showing you information for. In this example, it's 3 months. So you can see the number of page views versus the number of unique page views. So the cookies are actually tracking people who are coming back to your site. So that's good information to have. And then the average time on page, of course, you want to see that people are there not just for a few seconds. That would mean that they're coming to your site and being turned off immediately. Perhaps your site's not loading fast. We'll talk about that in a little bit. You also want to look at your bounce rate. So bounce rate is the information about how many people go to more than one page on your website. So we like to see a low number here. This is a higher number, but not super high. It's sort of in the middle. So you want to be looking for a lower bounce rate, and you want to see it go down over time. That means people are coming to your site and they're interested and they're getting engaged and they're going to other pages. That's what we like to see. So you want to see that too. That will give you information about what the experience is like for people coming to your website. Another great piece of information that you can look to Google Analytics to tell you is under acquisition, all traffic is source medium. So if you're running ads in Google or Facebook, you'll be getting data from the advertising component of Google or Facebook that will give you data on the amount of people who are clicking and that type of thing. But Google Analytics will also show you that, and it will show you that in comparison to organic SEO, which is the number 2 thing here, people who are coming to your site just through a regular search, not through ads. So this is good information also to get a feel for how people are coming to your site and whether campaigns that you're running are being helpful in comparison to other ways that people come to your site. And then Google Search Console, I'm going to put a link in the chat, and I'll also have a link in the slides that you can click on. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I could go really deep into Google Search Console, and I have done a webinar on using Google Search Console, which you can see in the chat. But this is also a free tool. If you use Google Analytics, it's very easy to connect to Google Search Console as well. If you use Google Search Console, why don't you let me know that in the chat too, so I can see if people are familiar with it. But what this will tell you is some of the same information as Google Analytics, but a bit more. It will show you the average position that you are coming up in search. So you can see it if you're coming up for the name of your school, as well as, let's say, private school in whatever town you're in. So it's really helpful to see that and to look at this over time as well, especially if you're doing some work on your site for keyword optimization. The other thing that Google Search Console will tell you is if you have some errors on your site. You may get emails telling you that you have errors. Sometimes those can be ignored, but especially when it's something like called a 404 error, that's really important to know about, because that means you have a broken link on your site. And broken links are a bad user experience. I'm sure you've all clicked on links before and had it said page can't be found. Google also does not like that. So you'll be penalized if you have 404 errors and you don't fix them. So pay attention to Google Search Console and the performance section to see if you have any errors happening as well. It's a great free tool. All right, so now that we've talked about those tools, let's talk about some just general usage things that when it comes to your website and making sure that it's easy for people to use when they come visit your site. I'm going to go through each of these separately, but starting with, does it load quickly? If your website loads too slowly, which for Google, that's 3 seconds or more, and that's desktop or mobile, then you're creating a negative user experience. If you have a big, huge video, and we see this a lot on school websites, a lot of you have great videos that play at the top of your site and they're gorgeous and beautiful. If they're not optimized to load quickly and they take too long to load, you're going to have people who are not going to see it because they're going to scroll past before it loads. Also, Google will penalize you. So it can impact your search result ranking if your website loads too slowly. So you want to make sure that you're checking to see if your website is loading fast. Now, many websites use something called a cache, which means it's saving it in your browser. So if you've been to your website before and you're going to test and you say it loads really fast, it's not a fair assessment. You should use a tool like this is Ubersuggest. There's also Google PageSpeed Insights and another tool called GT Metrics. There are many tools out there that will test the speed of your website. And I recommend that you give that a try after this webinar is over to see how fast your site is loading. And if it's taking a long time, you should look into why that is. And usually these tools will also tell you why it's loading slowly. I would say probably 80% of the time, it's going to be a combination of your hosting server. So it may be taking too long to load on your server, but also the size of your images and videos. If your images are not optimized, it's most likely going to cause your site to load more slowly. So we talked about loading speed on mobile and on desktop, and making your site mobile friendly is something that we used to see more an issue. We used to see more websites that did not have a mobile friendly version. Now it is much more common to see websites which are optimized for mobile and they are responsive. So that means that you have the same content that it fits on a screen. You don't have to zoom in with your fingers. That means it's mobile friendly. You can do a mobile friendly test with Google. If you just Google mobile friendly test, it will tell you if your site is mobile friendly. And you want to make sure that your navigation is easy to find, that your call to action buttons are easy to find on mobile, just as they are on your desktop. An SSL certificate stands for Secure Socket Layer. It's this little lock that you see. And if you come to a website and you don't see the lock, you might see a warning sign, or you might actually see a note at the top in that browser bar that says this website is insecure. That's not a good user experience. I don't know about you, but I don't really want to interact with the website these days that says that it's insecure. So you want to make sure that you have an SSL certificate on your site. Wherever your site is hosted, it's usually free to add this. Sometimes they expire and you just have to go back and renew it. But it's very important that you have this. About 3 years ago, Google made this a requirement, and this is another ranking factor. So if your website does not have an SSL certificate, it's going to impact your search result ranking. And then navigation. So this isn't necessarily a technical thing, but it's something that we pay a lot of attention to. So the top level pages of your website, in this case, say about, admission, learning, these are the top level pages. We call them silos, and underneath those should be housed other pages that fit into that section. You want to make sure that people can get to all of this information easily, whether it's through a big mega menu like you see here, or another drop down. It needs to make sense and it needs to be easy to access. Sometimes the top level pages are just headings and you can't click on them. We recommend having them be clickable pages because it gives you more content for SEO, and it's a better user experience to be able to click on something and have it open. And then call to action. So your website should have at least one call to action, one main call to action, but we also see pop-ups a lot. I'm sure you see them too, for schools to make an announcement like this and to possibly bring people to some next step, like signing up for an information session, but then also on the page in the hero section or up at the top, as you can see here, there's an announcement bar where people can know where to go right away to do the things that they need to do. So you want to have very clear call to action, make it easy for them to find, and make sure that it works. And what does working mean? Well, that means that once they click on it, they get to a page, right? They don't get to a 404 error, but also that once they click on it, they're getting into a system within your system that will create follow-up and create a continued relationship. And that's what Antony is going to talk about. So I'll turn it over to Antony now to talk about being a good trail guide on this journey. Oh, you're muted.
Okay, thanks. Awesome. Yeah, it's a bit difficult with the fire alarm still going off here. For those that, for what it's worth, I'm actually, yes, you are correct. He is sitting in a car running off a hotspot. So, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. Often schools have fire drills, whether they are real fire drills or there's some other emergency you have to deal with. These are interrupt driven, but if you're determined to make do, you can find a way. And I encourage everyone to have that attitude. I think most of you do. I know my co-presenters certainly have that attitude. So I thank you everyone for your patience on this. So given that Aubrey proposition by making sure you talk and you live, understanding that is key, and putting that message out to your customers is critical. Your prospects or future families is critical. Likewise, Tara was talking about once you put that message out there and they come to your website, you got to make sure that it's quick and easy to find that your message is on, right? And so the whole idea here is when families are going off and searching for those keywords like outdoor education near me or something like that, they're going to find, hopefully they're going to find you, right? And they're going to research you. They're going to get educated. They're going to talk to other people like Aubrey was doing with when she was evaluating gymnastics facilities for her daughter. You're going to read reviews. You're going to check out their social media channels, and you're going to come to their website, right? And at some point, they're going to engage with you when they want to find out more. Hey, could I do a trial lesson? Could I come and visit your school? So they're going to engage with you. And I highly encourage you to take you through this process. And I'm going to walk you through a good example here where you get to communicate with them And eventually you'll get them to give you an email address because you want them to come to your school. And then the secret is to really amaze them and over deliver on content so that they remember you. There's a great book by Seth Godin called, I think it's called, was it The Purple Cow? Have I got that right? And it's really basically over delivering and standing out and being remarkable is the message in it. I encourage you to read that book. And then obviously when you deliver that great content and service and brand experience, you try to get them to enroll. And then current families are going to be some of your best ambassadors, right? And get them, they'll start promote, because one of the big things is word of mouth. And then the whole cycle continues. So this is what we're going to take you through. And I want to walk you through an example of someone that did that search. So imagine they did that search and they come to your website, right? So as Tara said, is make sure you've got a call to action. So we want to make sure you easily capture leads. So you've got to have a good, simple forms package. Of course, Enquiry Tracker has all of this stuff, can deliver this experience from forms to emails to calendaring and all that sort of stuff. But the reality is you can use Gravity Forms. Tara could help you with integrating with some Google Forms, and you can capture that lead. So that's important. The next thing is to make sure you ask the right questions, and I'll give you some examples of what those are and why. Then it's very important to send a personalized email. Now, you can use technology to do this, and this is what I want you to do, because you'll save, I'm going to guess, I don't know, maybe 20 hours a month just on this process. Just if you had this automated for yourself, it will make you look great. And your future families are going to be so impressed, and they'll be happier because they're getting the service that they need. You always make sure you send personalized emails. I see a lot of schools that send these beautiful, well-designed, branded emails. That's okay if you're doing a newsletter or a broadcast, but when someone says, hey, I'm interested to knowing if I have to be Catholic to go to your school, you don't need a header and a banner and a fancy signature. You need an email, right? And so you want to make sure you respond with a personalized approach. Likewise, one of the key things we've always found is the most inquiries that schools get happen through events. So there's a great way that you can amaze them by really running stellar events. And for those that are interested, if you email me after this, I can send you a PDF guide on how to just deliver amazing events. And we've got a whole 20-page document on that. And once you've got that, you follow up by over delivering and then get them to enroll, fill out an application form, and then look at the data. Make sure you ask them, why did you pick our school? If they didn't, say, hey, sorry, you didn't choose our school. Why didn't you choose our school, that like Aubrey was talking about? And analyze that data and make sure you share it with your colleagues and make a decision on what you're going to change, whether it's your messaging on your website or changing some standard operating procedures at the school. All right. So when we talk about these leads coming in, they come in from these different sources. You remember that chart that Tara showed you before, which basically turned this into a pie chart. They come in from these like open days, make a general inquiry, a personal tour, request a view book, make a phone call. But either way, you got to capture that. My number one tip here is make sure you capture that in a single system. It shouldn't be in the front desk reception email inbox. It shouldn't be on pieces of paper. It shouldn't just be in Google Sheets. Have it in one place. Why? Because there's different people that need to access the same data. If someone's going to be doing a personal tour, they don't have access to your inbox. So make sure you use a centralized place to store all that information. Okay. Let's move on for the next slide. So if you know that they're coming in, a majority of them are coming in, like 90% of your leads are coming in online, make sure that those forms are super easy to find. And my big tip here is that when someone is searching for your school, they may not necessarily land on your homepage. They might land on a blog post or a page on some special robotics program you've got. And if they read something they like, guess what? They've got to find that CTA. So make sure they can access these forms quickly, either in the header and the nav. And another tip is I like to recommend our schools to make sure you have like a book a tour, visit us type button right in the top level nav. If you've got it on your homepage, don't be shy about promoting it in the hero like we have on this particular screen. So one of the things I like to do is my advice to you is go ask a friend, say, hey, go to our website, pick any page and see if you can find out how to book a tour or how to ask a question, and listen to them carefully and make some quick changes. So that's a tip you can go and put into action immediately. But this isn't just the only form, like book a tour. The forms that we see are these 4 forms. Book a tour is number 1. If you ask me for one piece of advice, I say put that in your nav is what I would do. Front and center, up at the very top, I make sure it's there. And I guarantee you will get more inquiries. The info pack button somewhere, a general inquiry, and apply now. You never know if you get ghost applications. Ideally, you don't want people to do that. You want them to go through this journey because they're getting a much stronger experience about your school, and they'll make the decision for the right reasons. All right. I mentioned at the start about asking the right questions. So I've got these in 3 different categories that I like to think about. So I'm going to talk about the middle pillar at the first one, because that's what most schools do. They say, oh, I have a form, say, what's mum or dad's name? What's their email, phone, and address? And that's important because that's who you're communicating with. My recommendation is that a minimum have one parent's information and their email to start with, but also include what student they're inquiring about, the student's first name and last name. And ideally, I would like to know what year they're going to start in, like 2024 or 2025 fall, and what grade level. Is it a kindergartner or is it a 9th grader? And the reason why you want to do that is for twofold. One is you're establishing your pipeline. So you can start to present data at the board level and they'll know, oh, we've got 50 inquiries for 2024 fall. That's pretty good at this time of year, so to speak. But it'd be nice to know how many are kindergartners and how many are 7th graders or 9th graders, for example. And the reason why you do that is you'll communicate them to the parents in a different manner. You won't be promoting the robotics summer camp to a kindergartner, right? I hope you're not. So being on message to that market is critical. And this is also when you can ask those questions on these forms, especially if they're applying to your school. Why did you select our school? Equally important, if they're not, you survey them, make sure you know why not. But I always like to ask, how did you hear about the school? And this is a bit different from the UTM stuff that Tara was talking about, like campaigns and source and medium. It's a self-declarative answer because often they will say, oh, I heard it from a friend or a family. And that is what you really want to hear because that's the best outcome of all the brand development you're doing. Okay, I hope that's easy to understand. So let's take an example of a form. Again, you could use something like Gravity Forms for WordPress or Google Forms to design a form like this. The things I recommend is make sure you decide which fields are mandatory and required. I would just focus on the pipeline, the starting year, and the student. And I would use data entry aids like radio buttons, check boxes, drop-down menus to make it easy to collect the right information the way you want it. Why? So you can report on it. Okay, it's as simple as that. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. Let's keep going through this system. So now, once you've collected that, you want to be able to make sure they get instant email saying thanks for registering or thanks for requesting the info. Make sure that they're personalized and consider, depending on the form they filled out, like if they filled out a view book form, maybe you have an email that goes maybe 3-4 days later that says, hey, I saw you requested a view book. We'd like to invite you to our open day or an upcoming, or would you like to schedule a personal tour? Make sure, and you can automate those things to make it easy for you, and you will get more inquiries and you'll get more people attending your events. And make sure that they're personalized. Don't say hi there, put hi Jane or hi Mrs. Smith or whatever. Just use the fields that you're collecting and send that, and use your own conversational style. It'll be more compelling. So here's an example of that journey. So they find the form on your website. Let's say, oh yeah, I click the book a tour button. Make sure they've got the form, easy to fill out. You got the required fields. Make sure you get the automated first content instantly, like thanks for registering in a personalized tone. Make sure if you can include the calendar invite or a Zoom invite if it's a virtual event. And make sure you create a great first impression. It doesn't matter if it's virtual or online, but one of the things we like to do is, and I'll cover this in the next slide, where you talk about leveraging your resources. Your students are your best resource. And we often encourage schools to check in families. So you've got your own student ambassadors, you have them use a tablet, they have the RSVP list there, they welcome the family. The family is going to be blown away. They get to talk to them. They get to find out extra information, like double check their address or double check the student interest. And that way you have another way to follow up with them. So I highly encourage you to do that, and never forget to send that follow up. That's often they finish, hey, how was open day? Oh, it was great. But make sure you said thanks for attending, and ask them, hey, what could we have done better? What else did you like us to do? Or if you're ready to apply, click here. So don't forget to do that. Most schools do. So thanks, Tara. Let's move on. I think I'm coming up towards the end of this. So I'm just trying to leave a few minutes here for a Q&A. So make sure that when you do these events, make sure all staff are well educated. Make sure you promote their qualifications on your website. That's another tip. Leverage your student and parents as ambassadors at events. You'll be super surprised at how well this works. Have students become tour leaders, and have them engage with the future students as well. Even though if they're young, these young kids will be super impressed hearing from an older kid. And I guarantee the families will be blown away when they go out to the next cocktail party. They'll say, hey, you should check out this school. I've never seen a school use their kids like the way they do. And it has a huge impact on word of mouth. And I think coming up to the end here, and I'm going to hand back to Susie in just a minute. So don't be afraid of the tech stack. It might sound like it's complicated, but use these forms to collect data. Make sure you use the right fields on those forms. Make sure anyone at the school can access them so they can all have visibility into it. And set up these simple personalized emails to walk them to this journey and blow them away. And look at that data, analyze it. One of the tips I like to share with our schools is, if you do the surveys, some of the things that Aubrey was talking about, don't be shy about having your school students analyze the results and share their insights, because I guarantee you, when you implement their decisions, great word of mouth. So I think on that note, I think I'm right at my stopping point here. So I'm going to hand back over to Susie, and then we're going to try to take a few Q&As if anyone has any.
Perfect. Thank you, Antony. I feel very grateful that you made it through that in your car with the fire alarm going off. So I'm relieved that we're through that part. If I could just pitch in a couple of sort of nuggets that might help you in your school. One of them is that one question survey that, we used to send at whatever point in the process is right for you, but it is a simple one question survey. Why wasn't our school the right fit for you? And you can pre-populate those answers so they can do, like Antony said, a pick list and choose those, what the common answers are, and an opportunity for them to write in, of course, in a text box on that one. The other piece of information I'd like to share is around, when you're getting that segmented marketing information, and I do like robotics or I do like gymnastics, one of the things that we used to do at the beginning of the year was go to every department head or year group coordinator or curriculum coordinator, just with a short 3 questions in terms of what are the 3 most important events on your calendar this year. So if it's a science fair, if it's a music concert, if you can get your staff to answer those 3 questions, what is it and when is it, you can start to populate your own calendar for your social media. So you know when you need to be around to take pictures. So you also know what events you can invite your future parents to. And I used to try to do this in person. I'd catch them at recess or at lunch and just say, look, I'm interested. And so that's a quick, easy way to get your staff to tell you what you need to know for the year in each of those subject areas. Just a little something you can do with that segmented marketing when you're asking them the question, what are you going to do with that information once you get it? So really great information from all of our presenters. That was just absolutely fantastic. I certainly would like to use the rest of the time here to answer any questions you might have. So feel free to get going in the chat, and I'll invite our presenters to have a look at what's populating in there and reach out and answer accordingly.
Absolutely. Please throw your questions in the chat. I just want to thank you for coming today. And so I wanted to let you know that our Small School Solutions Professional Development Program opens October 14th. And our free Small School Leaders monthly virtual meetup, the next one's November 10th. I threw all this information in the chat. And as a thank you, you can either use the QR code here or the link in the chat, where you can win. If you fill out the form, you have an option of winning an online brand visibility assessment from me, or a year in our Small School Solutions program. So thanks. And
Awesome.
Tara?
All right, so you get 3 offers today as a thank you for joining us. I have a downloadable form, which also you can take a picture of this QR code with your phone, and it should open up for you a sign up form where you can download just a do-it-yourself audit that will walk you through some of the things that I talked about earlier. But also, if you do that, I'll also enter in a raffle for a free done-for-you audit. And this is a much more complete, many-page document that we put together. We walk through every page of your website, make recommendations for design, for technical improvements, lots of things, SEO. So that's a good value for you. You get that for free, and you can take it and use it as a roadmap for improving your website going forward. So I also have a link here when you get these slides for the Google Search Console webinar, and I'll put those links in the chat in a moment as well.
Thanks, Tara. That's awesome. So I'm making ours super simple to follow. You just have to sign up for a demo with our product if you're interested in learning more about how we solve that journey problem for schools. We do this for about 275 schools across the US and in Australia. And so if you book an Enquiry demo tracker, you do not have to literally book it today. It's anytime. I think it's through end of January next year. You'll be entered in the drawing to get a value of $2,000 ticket that you can apply towards traveling to Australia, which we'd love to welcome you down under. On that note, does anyone have any questions, or is it otherwise we'll make sure everyone gets this recording. We'll probably go out early next week once we've sort of done all the editing on it, but it will be made available. I think that's one of the questions that we've just got from Cheryl. And Tara's just posted her note on the DIY website audit. Thanks, Laurie. Thanks, Cheryl.
Perfect.
All right.
So feel free to reach out via email. I know any one of the presenters and including myself would be happy to answer any questions you have. So you'll get our contact details, and thank you again so much for joining. We'll go ahead and wrap up here. Great. Thank yous are coming through. That's nice. And we look forward to connecting with you and staying in touch and helping you through your own journey. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye-bye.